It is awesome to be on stage at Thought for Food. I came to the event in Portugal, Lisbon last year. Who was there last year? What an amazing event that was, and what another amazing event Christina's found for this year. SynBioBeta is a global activity hub. We have over 290 companies in our database. Synthetic biology is booming, our ability to read DNA, our ability to write DNA. And I want to talk a little bit about how it's being applied to food, and if there's a few assumptions that are maybe you've got a scratch or an itch and you really want to uproot it, then I'm going to help you to do that. I was at my local shopping mall in Palo Alto, California, just the week before last, and I saw this wonderful shop that was right in front of me. It's a natural and organic. It's called Sprout, the shop. It's a natural and organic. I blocked out the word of what the shop is selling here. Can anybody would anybody like to guess what the shop is selling? Julie, you spoiled my punchline already. Sprout is a natural and organic children's boutique. And now I have a wonderful 2-year-old, a wonderful 4-year-old, and I've been searching for years for natural and organic clothing. So it was such a pleasure to see this. But even better when you zoom in and actually look in the window, as well as the natural and organic children's dungaree set, the natural and organic onesie, the natural and organic Easter egg bunny costume. You have this wonderful bouquet, a lining of fake plastic flowers. And as I decided that I was going to talk about uprooting an assumption, the assumption that I wanted to uproot for you is the Naturalist Fallacy. Here's another one on the plane over. The person next to me was reading the in-flight magazine, and it caught my attention, clearly because it's a naked woman on the advertising. But it also caught my attention because of this slogan, naturally better. And I thought, wow, the Naturalist Fallacy is all around us. It really is. And again, when I zoomed in a little bit closer, and I was like, what actually is this? What is it? It's Naturatint. It's a hair dye. It's saying naturally is better, and then to dye your hair. So all around us we have this thing called Naturalist Fallacy. And when I get to the airport in Zürich, the Swiss Tourist Board is saying, Switzerland, get natural. Now, I do love Switzerland. I think it's a good, in this case, I think it's a good association. But nature isn't always good. There are these horrible things that nature does to us. Earthquakes, tornadoes, tidal waves, natural disasters, poisonous living things that will bite you, kill you. Nettles that you grasp as a child that will leave your hand blistered. Or germ warfare at the bacterial level. We get all of our antibiotics from cells that at the microscopic level are killing each other. That's where these antibiotics come from cells that want to produce them to kill each other. So there's plenty of things in nature that are bad for you, but we have this naturalist fallacy where we associate natural with good. And this has been explored by philosophers over the last 300 years, starting with David Hume, the is-ought problem. Just because something is doesn't mean it necessarily ought to be. John Stuart Mill, in a wonderful essay on nature, and most recently G.E. Moore, who came up with the term the naturalist fallacy. Let's think about what nature is. Let's go back 13.8 billion years ago to the Big Bang. A giant explosion, a giant ball of hydrogen. Well, what is hydrogen? A proton and an electron. And what is the universe? It's just masses of energy, masses of hydrogen that's expanded and collapsed and expanded and collapsed and produced suns, stars, planets, moons, all of the mass that we see around us. Indeed, it's produced 118 different elements, all made up of protons, neutrons, and clouds of electrons. And it's those electrons that are interacting to make us and to make biology. Randomly, biology has only picked these 6 elements from those 119 options to make the things that we're living from. Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. They make up all of the biological molecules in our body, DNA, proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, fats. DNA is the most important because that's the one that's storing this information. And DNA is this wonderful manufacturing technology for making proteins of all sorts and shapes and sizes. And it's all hidden inside these wonderful self-replicating machines called cells, which can replicate every 20 minutes. And the genome, all the mass of the DNA that makes a living organism, is this operating system of a cell. But the genome wouldn't be a genome without the ability for random mutations to occur, for changes in the genetic material, for modifications to happen. And all of these modifications are very natural. In fact, I love mutations. It's what makes me, me, and it's what makes you, you. It's what makes my children a mix between my DNA and my wife's DNA. It's what changes the DNA, and it's what changes how life has evolved here on Earth. Indeed, Darwin's observation in Galapagos of the birds changing to suit their different environment. He had no idea of DNA at the time. He had no idea of the underlying structure of what was causing these changes in the animals that he was seeing. But we know now. So mutations are natural. And then when we look at the dreaded GMOs, and we look at the dreaded fear of the unknown of these mutations and what they're doing, but actually, it's these mutations that have allowed us, through breeding and natural processes of changes in the genetic information, that now mean that things that we were just starting to domesticate maybe 10,000 years ago are now these wonderful fruits and vegetables that we can eat now. So the avocado, the corn, the primitive corn of what it might have looked like 10,000 years ago to what it looks like now, and the banana. Again, I'd prefer to eat the domesticated version on the right than the pithy, seedy version on the left. And that's changes in the DNA that allow us to get from A to B. So GMO labeling is a huge issue right now, worldwide, but particularly in the United States. I think we should be labeling GMOs. I think we should be labeling them proudly as something that have changed over time, or they've changed through modifications that we're making to them. But I think we need to be realistic, and we need to use a baseline for when we're talking about genetic modifications. So let's pick that baseline of 10,000 years ago when plant breeders started to change the DNA of the fruit and vegetables that they were doing. So let's look at a GMO label based on the percentage change of DNA since 10,000 years ago. And I haven't done the analysis, I'm just making up these percentage numbers. And let's label things accordingly based on how much modification they've gone through since domestication. There's a growing food tech ecosystem that are proud of the genetic changes that they're making, that are making food in a more sustainable fashion, in a more health-conscious fashion, and in a more transparent fashion. Move-Free is making milk proteins without the cow. Ginkgo Bioworks is making flavors and fragrances that you may never have tasted or smelled before. Clara Foods is making egg whites using yeast instead of battery-caged hens. And Modern Meadow is making meat and leather, but without the cow. There's a huge potential for young biotech entrepreneurs to do good in the world through the use of biotechnology. And I think we need to uproot some of the assumptions about genetic modification and celebrate some of the technology and some of the products that are coming to market. And I want to leave you with a quote by Bo Bennett, who says, "We go against nature all the time. We cannot sometimes use nature as a moral baseline, and at other times condemn her for her careless attitude and indifference towards the human race." Enjoy the summit. Good luck to all the competitors, and thank you very much.